My name is Elias Monroe. I'm 38, a former cybersecurity strategist turned freelance investigator, and the family disgrace no one ever wanted to admit existed. The Monroes are legacy wealth, Charleston royalty wrapped in silk and scandal, and I used to believe marrying into their world meant I'd finally earned a seat at their table. But even after 10 years, I've never been more than a tolerated outsider, especially since I exposed the deal that nearly took down their investment empire. They don't forgive exposure. They erase it. So when I said I was excited to attend my sister-in-law's wedding, and Genevieve, my mother-in-law, looked me in the eye and smirked, that was for family only, I knew this wasn't about invitations anymore. It was a warning. And this time, I'm not walking away quietly. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, with a wax seal that cracked like bone when I opened it. Allegra's wedding, set at Magnolia Estate. Tailored dress code. 4-course dinner. Live quartet. And at the very bottom, in smaller print, family-only seating during vows. I read it twice. Then again. Looks like the reconciliation's real, I told Marin, half smiling. Maybe the Monroes are thawing out. Marin didn't answer right away. She just sipped her coffee, watching me. Are you sure they meant to send that to you? I should have listened. She sees patterns. I just see opportunities. The day we drove down to Charleston, the weather was as humid as secrets. Moss hanging from oaks like whispers. Our daughter asleep in the back seat, her headphones falling off one ear. The kind of calm that feels fake. Too quiet. The first warning shot came at the Monroe family dinner. Looking forward to seeing you at the altar, I said, raising my glass to Allegra across the table. Everyone froze. Even the server hesitated mid-pour. Genevieve didn't flinch. She placed her silver fork down, dabbed her mouth with linen, and looked straight at me. That was for family only, she said. 7 words. Soft, slow, final. Like a velvet rope being pulled tight. Laughter resumed a beat later, scattered and thin. No one made eye contact with me after that. After dessert, I stepped out to the porch. I pulled out my phone and logged into the RSVP portal. My name, Elias Monroe, was listed in red, unconfirmed. Then crossed out. I clicked resend confirmation. The screen flashed. Error, unauthorized user. I tried Marin's. Same error. A gust of wind scattered magnolia petals across the porch. I didn't hear the door open behind me, but I felt it, that subtle change in pressure, the presence. Genevieve's voice slid beside me. Sometimes people confuse being tolerated with being included. I didn't turn. I didn't have to. Being excluded doesn't mean being invisible, I said. It just makes me harder to predict. She smiled. I could feel it. Then she walked away. Back at the hotel, I opened my laptop. The private cloud account I hadn't touched in 2 years flashed red. One new file. Timestamp, 2:47 p.m. today. File name, project_eternity_emergency.docs. I didn't upload that. I clicked. Encrypted. I ran a backdoor decrypt script. Halfway through the process, the screen blinked, then went black. Text appeared. This wedding isn't a celebration. It's a transaction. I stared at it. My pulse studded. Whoever uploaded this knew how I worked. And knew what I'd need next. The door behind me creaked. Marin stood in the doorway. You're pacing again, she said. You only do that when you're back in. Someone just dropped a live file into my cold vault, I said. She blinked. Do I need to pack bags or run a trace? Both. I turned the screen. They're moving something. Fast. I'm not just uninvited. I'm being erased. She didn't blink. Just said, where? Savannah, I said. That's where the coordinates point. Marin picked up her phone. Then we leave now. As I shut the laptop, a notification popped. An image. A family portrait of the Monroes at the wedding rehearsal, Allegra, her fiancé, Genevieve, everyone. Except me. Except us. Caption. The new family photo. Final cut. We're not going to Napa. We're going to Paris. The boarding gate blinked 2:34 a.m. on the overhead screen. Marin handed the flight attendant our passports without speaking. I had the drive. She had the code. That was our deal. No goodbye texts. No announcements. Just us, 3 carry-ons, and a file labeled Project Eternity ticking like a ghost in my mind. Alex was asleep on my shoulder. Noah was curled into Marin's coat, headphones askew. Lila clutched her sketchpad, watching everyone like she was sketching suspects in a crime. Paris wasn't a vacation. It was an extraction. We cleared the jet bridge. Our seats were in first class, courtesy of a dormant account linked to an old shell company I dissolved 3 years ago. Or thought I had. Some doors don't lock just because you leave them, Marin muttered. The plane's interior hummed with cold elegance. Champagne. Silk pillows. The kind of silence that feels performed. Seat 1A was empty. I was in 1B. That wasn't right. Excuse me, I said to the flight attendant. This seat, 1A, was booked under my name. She smiled politely. Actually, it was booked under Mr. Monroe. David Monroe. My heart didn't race. It stopped. Then climbed. David. My brother. Dead. Or so they said. The champagne flute in my hand tilted. I righted it before it spilled. Did the passenger check in? I asked. No, she said. But he confirmed 48 hours ago. Would you like to keep the seat open? I didn't answer. To a future we can't escape. That was what David used to say, usually over whiskey. Usually before doing something illegal. The seat next to me remained empty for 15 minutes. Then someone slid into it. A woman. Late 30s. Crisp navy coat. Sharp eyes. French accent. She didn't introduce herself right away. Just turned, held out her hand like a formality. Odette, she said. We knew each other, once. Back in Boston. I never lived in Boston. I wasn't talking about you. Her smile was too perfect. I looked down. She was holding a monogrammed cigarette case. Gold. Monroe crest. David's. You're holding a dead man's sins, I said. She shrugged. Depends who wrote the obituary. The plane took off. Marin watched us from across the aisle. One hand on Noah's shoulder. Her gaze flicked from me to Odette. She didn't blink. I didn't ask how Odette knew I'd be here. Or why she had David's lighter. She volunteered nothing. Not until the meal cart passed. You were erased, she said, cutting her fillet. I blinked. Not exiled. Not ignored. Erased. Your name in the system, the board votes, the bylaws, all gone. You weren't excluded from the wedding. You were written out of the Monroe infrastructure. How do you know that? I helped with the formatting. Cut. Flashback. Not memory, the data. I remembered the firewall breach 2 years ago. The signature hash that matched internal fingerprints, but never traced to a single device. You ran the kill command, I whispered. Odette smiled. David didn't want to lose you. But he also didn't want you stopping him. I clenched the seat arms. Cold sweat behind my ears. She leaned in. Paris isn't the end of this, Elias. It's the beginning. The safe house isn't in Marais. It's in the 8th Rue de Berry. Number 17. Ask for the concierge. Use the word eternity. What's there? Not what. Who? Before I could answer, she pressed a folded note into my coat pocket. For when you stop trusting your instincts. Then she vanished. No goodbye. No luggage in overhead. No boarding pass left behind. I didn't move for a long time. Just stared at seat 1A. The stewardess returned. Would you like your meal now, Mr. Monroe? No, I said. I want to know who checked in under my brother's name. She frowned, checked the tablet. Her lips parted. There's no record of anyone named Monroe on this manifest. My stomach dropped. I checked my own boarding pass. Passenger, Ellis Montrose. Not Monroe. Not even close. My entire identity had been altered in the system. Again. Marin looked over. I nodded once. When she tucked Lila's blanket in, she mouthed one word. Compromised? I tapped once on the armrest. Code for yes. Noah stirred. In his hands, not from his bag, but clenched in his sleep, was a folded note. Brown ink. Torn edge. I opened it. Don't let them silence you. Paris holds the key. Everlight lives. Signed, David. But it wasn't David's handwriting. It was mine. From a cipher I'd only ever used in field notes. Encrypted. Rewritten. Mirrored. And the message wasn't meant to be read. It was meant to be decoded. You're not here by chance, are you? Claire whispered. We landed at 6:12 a.m. Paris time. Fog. Gray skies. Slick runways. The kind of morning that feels like someone else's life. I didn't speak until the bags hit the carousel. Rue de Berry, I said. Marin nodded. 17th arrondissement. Luxury hotels. Old money. No cameras. Exactly. The cab smelled like citrus and leather. Alex and Noah slept on either side of me. Marin kept the windows cracked just enough for city air to slide in, cool, metallic, alive. Odette hadn't followed us off the plane. No sign of her at customs. No entry log at immigration. Like she never existed. But the note in my pocket still radiated warmth. Concierge. Password, eternity. I don't believe in fate. But I believe in symmetry. What you bury always has a way of resurfacing. The building was limestone and shadows. No plaque. Just a brass number, 17, and a man in a tailored coat reading Le Monde upside down. Bienvenue, he said, without looking up. Marin raised a brow. He held out a gloved hand. I reached into my coat. The folded note. A breath. Then. Eternity, I said. He folded the paper and stepped aside. The elevator didn't move when we stepped in. No buttons. No controls. The doors slid shut. Then open. Different hallway. Velvet carpet. No sound. Every wall lined with bookshelves and security cameras disguised as art. We were in. The room was already waiting. Oak desk. One lamp. One file. The file had my name on it. Inside, bank transfer logs, sealed affidavits, and... Holy hell, Marin whispered. That's your signature. Not mine, I said. It's copied. Dozens of pages. Corporate restructuring documents. Trust funds. Deed transfers. All with my forged signature. Backdated. Some were from dates I was out of the country. They're moving your holdings, she muttered. Shell to offshore. Cayman, Belize, Liechtenstein. Someone's wiping you out in real time. She pulled her laptop. I need a live line. No Wi-Fi. Nothing traceable. Then we go analog, she said, grabbing a burner phone from her go bag. I stepped toward the window. The Eiffel Tower loomed in the distance. Too far. Too cinematic. I opened the drawer of the desk. One object. An external hard drive. Matte black. Heavy. Cold to the touch. This is it, I said. It buzzed when I connected it. No password screen. Just one folder. Not what you think. Inside, footage. I clicked play. A boardroom. Dimly lit. Genevieve Monroe at the head. Allegra on her left. Red Calder on her right. Everything Elias touched has been wiped, Genevieve said in the recording. Assets. Authority. Reputation. He's nothing but a memory now. Allegra leaned in. And what if he resurfaces? Genevieve smiled. Cold. Clinical. Then we finished the memory. I paused the video. Marin didn't speak. I clicked forward. More footage. Hidden camera. Different angle. My parents' living room. Timestamped from 2 weeks ago. My mother crying. My father silent. A man in a navy suit handed them papers. You're surrendering power of attorney, the man said. As instructed by Elias Monroe. Lies. I leaned forward. The signature on the form? Mine. But I'd never seen those papers before. That's criminal, Marin hissed. They forged your consent to take your parents' rights. Which means they can make medical decisions. Financial moves. Even sell the house. And you'd take the fall, she added. Then her phone vibrated. One text. From an unknown number. They're already here. I bolted for the window. Across the street, a black sedan. Tinted. Idle. A man leaned against the hood, staring up. He smiled. And raised his phone. It buzzed in my hand a second later. If you go to the press, your kids won't come home. Marin locked the door. We're not running, I said. Then we hid back. She reached into her case, pulled a drive with the Monroe insignia engraved on the side. Remember this? It was David's. The failsafe, she whispered. He gave it to me before he disappeared. I plugged it in. One file. Video. David. Alive. This isn't just about the wedding, Elias, he said on screen. It's about Everlight. They buried it. I buried something worse. He leaned closer to the lens. And if you're watching this, I'm already gone. You either finish what you started, or you lose them all. We moved to a secondary room inside the Rue de Berry facility, smaller, darker, lead-lined. No signals in or out. No microphones. The door locked with a biometric pad key to my thumbprint, even though I'd never been here before. David set it up. He always planned 5 moves ahead. The video was still looping on Marin's screen. David's voice, urgent but focused, like he knew what was coming. Everlight wasn't just a tech initiative. It was a vault. It held leverage. Blackmail. Digital copies of private medical records, board meeting audio, shell transfers, offshore keys. Monroe Industries built it to protect themselves. I built a backdoor to destroy it. I exhaled slowly. He was warning me. No, arming me. Behind me, Marin whispered, there's something buried deeper. Look at the code signature. She enlarged the screen. Hex patterns. Too symmetrical. That's not random encryption, she said. It's obfuscated video. I tapped the frame. The screen flickered. New feed loaded. A hidden surveillance clip. Genevieve Monroe, alone this time. talking to a man in shadows. The audio low. She'll never challenge the will, Genevieve said. She thinks David's dead. She should, the man replied. Because if she finds out otherwise, the trust reverts. I froze. David wasn't just alive. He was the contingency. If he returned, everything reset. The inheritance. The board seat. The control. Unless. They needed him declared dead, Marin said. Legally. Permanently. I rubbed my temples. So they built the illusion. Disappearance. Fake travel logs. No death certificate, just enough uncertainty to force silence. It's not enough anymore, she added. We need proof. Live proof. Another feed opened, camera footage from a private airport hangar. Same timestamp as the day David supposedly vanished. A blurry figure stepped into a Gulf Stream. Not David. A woman. Wearing his coat. She turned toward the camera. For a split second, the face came into focus. Odette. Cut. We left the safe house before dawn. Rue de Berry was no longer safe. Our kids were rerouted to a decoy location with Marin's cousin, a former DEA logistics officer in Nice. You said Odette was a ghost, Marin hissed, strapping her seatbelt as we sped toward the 7th arrondissement. She is, I said. But she's not alone. I'd sent an emergency ping to an old contact, Nolan Vale. Ex-NSA. Now a high-risk data arbitrator living in exile. Last known location, a jazz bar beneath a church in Invalids. The bartender knew his name. No eye contact. Just a nod. Basement. Piano booth. We moved fast. Nolan was waiting, sipping bourbon neat, fingers resting on a silenced Sig Sauer. I told you never to contact me again, he said. You lied, I replied. He smirked. What do you need? Everlight. He exhaled, slow and sharp. You're 12 months too late. Monroe encrypted the master kill switch. Anyone who touches it gets flagged. Interpol. DOJ. Private contractors. David's alive. That made him blink. Then, you sure? Odette's involved. We think he staged his own vanishing to bypass Genevieve. I'll get the warrant logs, Nolan said. But if Monroe's inside Everlight again, someone's already dead. I reached into my coat, pulled the hard drive. This is what he left behind. Nolan scanned the drive. This key references a dead node. Monaco. Former shell server. Abandoned. Then we go there. No, he said. You don't. He tapped his screen. Because the moment you land in Monaco, there's a red notice flagged under your alias. Interpol's watching. Then bait them. Marin stepped in. We feed false coordinates. Paris outbound. Elias stays behind. And draws them out, Nolan finished. Exactly. Cut. 2 hours later, I stood outside the Palais Garnier Opera House. Alone. Phone turned off. Wallet clean. A decoy signal pulsed from my pocket, GPS pings set to simulate movement through Trocadero. Marin and Nolan were already en route to Monaco. My job, buy time. The air felt tighter than before. Too quiet. I took one step toward the entrance and heard it. A whisper of breath behind me. I turned. Odette. No coat this time. No cryptic smile. Just her eyes, sharp, calculating, cornered. You weren't supposed to find the video, she said. David's alive, I replied. A beat. Then, not anymore. I stepped closer. Where is he? She didn't blink. Then she whispered, asked Genevieve what she buried under the vineyard in Savannah. And that's when the gunfire started. The first shot shattered the opera glass behind me. I didn't think. I moved. Down the marble steps. Left. Crowd screaming. A woman fell. Someone shouted my name, but not the one on my passport. Odette grabbed my coat. Hard. Run, she hissed. They don't miss twice. We sprinted into the alley, shoes slipping on wet stone. Another shot. Sparks off brick. Breath burning. Cut. Black van. Door open. I slammed it shut behind us just as the engine roared. Tires screamed. Paris blurred. Odette pressed her back to the wall, chest heaving. Blood on her sleeve. Not hers. You said ask Genevieve, I said. So talk. She laughed once. Sharp. Broken. You always did think truth arrives politely. I checked my phone. No signal. Jammed. Savannah, she said. The vineyard outside Bluffton. Monroe property. Bought through a land trust 20 years ago. That's where David is. No, she swallowed. That's where the truth is. Cut. We ditched the van near Gare de Lyon. Changed jackets. Split. I took the next flight to Atlanta under a different name. The kind of name you forget as soon as it's said. On the plane, I kept thinking about something David used to tell me: if you want to know who's lying, watch who's calm when the room burns. Genevieve had always been calm. Savannah greeted me with humidity and jasmine. I drove south, past gated estates and Spanish moss, until the road narrowed and the fences grew taller. Monroe Vineyard. Iron gates. Security cameras. Private property signs that meant lawyered. I parked a mile out. Walked the rest. The soil was soft from rain. Recently turned. That's when I smelled it. Not rot. Something sharper. Chemicals. I knelt. Brushed dirt aside. Bone. A hand. I staggered back. This wasn't one grave. It was many. Voices behind me. Flashlights. Federal agents. Hands where we can see them. I raised my hand slowly. The lead agent stepped forward. Older. Southern drawl. Badge red H. Keller. You Elias Monroe? He asked. No, I said. He smiled thinly. Good. Because Elias Monroe is under federal investigation for fraud, coercion, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. He nodded toward the graves. And you just walked into evidence. Cut. Interrogation room. Cold. Bright. They laid out documents. Transfers. Medical proxies. Trust amendments. All with my signature. All fake, I said. Then explain the video, Keller replied. He played it. Genevieve. On a phone. Standing at this very vineyard. If Elias ever resurfaces, she said, make sure the narrative holds. Dead men don't testify. My blood went cold. That's conspiracy to commit murder, I said. Keller leaned back. It is. And you're the prime suspect. The door opened. Another agent entered. Whispered to Keller. Keller's expression shifted. You've got a visitor, he said. The door opened again. Marin. Alive. Dusty. Eyes sharp. Behind her, Nolan. And behind him, Genevieve Monroe. Perfectly dressed. Pearls. Calm. I told you this would end badly, she said softly. Marin stepped forward. Tell them. Genevieve sighed. There's nothing to tell. Nolan cleared his throat. Actually, there is. He dropped a drive on the table. Everlight, he said. Unlocked. Keller stiffened. That system's sealed. Not anymore, Nolan replied. Your warrants. Her payments. The kill orders. Genevieve smiled. You think data wins wars? No, I said. But it ends them. Keller watched the screen as files loaded. His jaw tightened. Mrs. Monroe, he said slowly, you're under arrest. She looked at me then. Finally. You were never family, she said. You were a liability. I leaned in close. That's the difference between us. I protected family. You buried it. They cuffed her. As they let her out, her phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen. From David. You were wrong. I stared at it. Because if David was texting, he wasn't dead. And he wasn't done. The cold steel of the courtroom bench pressed against my back as I watched Genevieve take the stand. Her hair was immaculate. Her pearls flawless. But her eyes empty. Not fear. Not shame. Just calculation. She still thought she could outplay the truth. The prosecutor didn't flinch. Mrs. Monroe, did you or did you not authorize a financial transfer of $6 million under Elias Monroe's forged signature? She didn't blink. No. I merely processed what my son-in-law had already approved. Twist. The screen flickered. Nolan's voice echoed. Playback commencing. Her private call. The vineyard. Her own words. If Elias ever resurfaces, make sure the narrative holds. Dead men don't testify. Gasps. The jury froze. Even the judge leaned forward. Genevieve's mask cracked. Only for a second. But enough. They say pride's a leash for the powerful. She pulled it herself. Cut. 4 weeks later. Verdict, guilty. All counts. Bank fraud. Conspiracy. Attempted murder. Odette testified. Marin too. Even Nolan, under a sealed immunity deal. The court heard about forged trusts, fake proxies, threats, hacked inheritance structures, and a web so wide it shook the boardrooms of 2 states. Genevieve never flinched. I did. When David walked in. Thin. Pale. Alive. Not dead, he said simply. Just disappeared. For my kids. It wasn't for me. And that was okay. Sometimes closure isn't a reunion. It's recognition. Cut. I took the kids out of school that week. Told them we were going on a trip. Paris. First class. They gasped when they saw the seats. Their faces, untouched by the storm we'd walked through. Is this forever? Evie whispered. No, I said. But it's now. And that's enough. People like Genevieve live forever trying to rewrite the past. People like me learn to stop reading their pages. Life's not fair, I told my son as we lifted off. But you fight clean. And you finish what others start. He looked up at me. What if they come back? Then we do what family does. He blinked. Run? I smiled. No. We stand. Cut. Sunset at the Seine. Evie spilled her juice on the hotel carpet. Jake tried to turn the bidet into a squirt gun. Marin brought croissants that were gone in minutes. Chaos. Laughter. Real. There are wounds that scream even after they close. But some wounds, the ones buried under inheritance and power and pearls, they only heal in light. And we finally had light. The bloodline doesn't define you, I whispered, watching the kids sleep. What you do with the pain does. Behind me, the Eiffel Tower lit up. Christmas Eve. No Genevieve. No lies. Just us. I opened the letter David left. It was short. You never belonged in their family. But they never deserved yours. Cut. Fade to black.